components that you want to have on your resume. The first is what I call a profile. And the profile represents the overview of your experience and the qualifications that you possess. So it's the high-level summary of who you are, right in a quick snapshot. And I can explain that more in a bit. From there, you're going to want to have your professional experience fully laid out. Now, this is the meat of the resume. This is where a lot of people get hung up on in terms of putting too many bullet points or too few bullet points. And then the last, I would say, is education, especially if you're someone who already has work experience, even just a few years. That's what hiring managers are wanting to see more so rather than your education, as much as education is important. But if you have what they require from an education standpoint, it's not as vital for you to include it at the beginning. If anything, it's better to just put it at the end because you want to highlight what you bring to the table from a skills, qualifications, experience standpoint instead.
And going back to the profile part of all of this, what is that? Can you tell us a little bit about what that should be at the top of a resume?
Yes, profile. So, one thing I want to point out is that a lot of people don't even include this particular section on their resume, which is the profile or summary on your resume. And that is, I would say, a grave mistake, because here's the thing. It only takes a recruiter or a hiring manager a few seconds to review your resume that very first time. And from there, they'll know if they want to continue you forward in that process of potentially calling you in for the interview or just deleting and checking you into the trash bin. And so this is important because if you have a profile or a summary overview, that's where their eyes are going to go to first when they're first scanning that resume in the first 3 seconds. And so you want to make sure that that profile gives you the overview of who you are from a title standpoint, what skills and experience you possess, and the qualifications that you have that are in line with the job that you're applying for. And so, there are several components and several bullet points that are included in a profile that, unfortunately, due to interest of time and all that, we don't have the ability to get into. But I would talk about the very first bullet point. And that is that you want to label yourself as the job title or similar job title to what it is that you're applying for. That's the first thing. So if you're a financial analyst and you're applying for a financial analyst job, fantastic. Make sure that goes right in there in that first bullet point, that you're a financial analyst with what types of experiences and skills that you bring. And again, these are going to come back to the keywords that you did all that work researching and highlighting. And from there, you're going to also talk about the qualifications, the type of industry that you possess. So that's all going to go in that very first bullet point. It's going to seem a little bit run on. That's my, that's just how it might look, but it's all part of the process of the hiring manager scanning and seeing ding, 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 ding. You match so many keywords of what the job is asking for right off the bat. And so that's why having a profile, having a summary and overview of who you are as a candidate is really important.
Now, Linda, the professional experience part, that is sort of the meat of the resume, I think, because it tells you, where you've been, what you've done. So what should people put in their professional experience?
Yes. So when it comes to professional experience, just like you said, Andrew, it's the meat of the resume. You want to obviously include the company that you've worked at, the companies that you've worked at, the job titles and the dates, the exact clear dates, the month and year, that from when to when that you've worked at those companies. But you definitely also want to have very clear, well-written bullet points, responsibility bullet points is what I call them, that outline exactly what it is that you did in those jobs. And here's the thing, they have to be relevant. I think I've mentioned this a few times already. They have to be relevant to the job that you're applying for. You do not have to dump every single task, duty, assignment that you've ever worked on in that job in your resume. You just have to pick out the relevant bullet points, relevant keywords and relevant tasks that you've done. And so, I can even talk about what the formula for a responsibility bullet point would look like. And that would be what you did. So the action, so let's say it's prepare financial statements or prepare reports or develop analysis, and then how you did it, And this is a little bit more flexible. How, when I say how, it could be exactly that, how you did it. Like, did you compile data from a certain system? Or it could be just giving it more context, like from a time frame perspective, how long does it take you to do that thing? Or how often do you do it? So you could say prepare reports on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. I mean, that's just giving a little bit more context. And then the last part is the why. Why do you do what you do? The purpose behind what you do. And this is the part that a lot of people miss out on. And it could be as simple as to support management decision making if that task is directly related to that. But you have to understand, why do I do this particular task? If you're only listing out the tasks themselves, that's not showing to the employer from a communication standpoint that you truly understand your role, that you understand the nuances of why you do what you do. And it just it doesn't make you stand out, essentially. So you want to include those three components: the what, the how, and the why. And the other thing that I also want to say about professional experience that I don't want to forget is, after you've written those responsibility bullet points, you also want to, right underneath them, include accomplishments, and actually have a section specifically for that particular job. Okay, because this is where a lot of people make the mistake where they include an entirely completely different section on their resume where they just put accomplishments, and then they list out a bunch of accomplishments, and as a recruiter or a hiring manager, they have no idea what that accomplishment relates to in terms of what company you did that accomplishment at, what job you did that in. So you don't want to have a section. That's why I don't have a section like that. You have that, it's like a subsection underneath these responsibilities. For each job, you want to have at least one, maybe two accomplishments that you list where they are quantifiable. So a formula for accomplishment would be, what did you successfully do? Okay, what did you successfully do? What was the accomplishment itself? You successfully created a new template. Okay, let's, as an example, what did it result in? And this is the thing. Generally, an accomplishment is an accomplishment because it resulted in something, whether it was a time savings, you saved 3 hours of work for the team, or 3 days of work, or it's a cost savings, ideally, if you knew that it resulted in a quantifiable amount, or if it was that an increased revenue or increased profit in some way. So save time, save money, or improved profitability. And then on top of that, you want to make sure that you quantify that. So as long as it has a number, a percentage, a dollar value associated to it, that helps to really solidify the accomplishment.
My next question, though, to round out the resume part of this, is education. What do we do with that?
Yeah, honestly, education is the most straightforward one. And that's what you want to make sure that you do, is to keep it straightforward. I've seen people put in their education sections a whole slew of things, like courses that they've taken from 10 years ago, and you know, all obscure certifications that are completely irrelevant to the job. I would say cut those things out. Just keep it straight to the point. Talk about the institutions, the universities, the colleges, whatever it is that you attended, the degrees, the certifications, the diplomas that you received, and the dates. And of course, if there's something unique about that, in the sense that, let's say you were the top student there, or you received really high grades and you received recognition for that, fine, you can absolutely include that, but you don't have to list everything from an education standpoint that you studied, that you learned, especially if it's not relevant. So just keep it short and sweet in your education section. If you already have several years of work experience, I would say for sure, take it to the 2 pages. 2 pages is standard. It's completely acceptable. But anything more than that, on the other hand, is showing the employers that you don't really know how to be concise, potentially, that you can't keep it, down. And the truth is, you're only really wanting to emphasize the most recent positions that you've worked at. You don't need to start writing out crazy detailed bullet points for jobs that you held 10 plus years ago. Those jobs can be kept to a minimum. You can just list the job title, the company name, and maybe 1 or 2 bullet points related to them. But you don't have to do these lengthy responsibility bullet points for every single job. You just want to emphasize the most recent ones, because again, that's what hiring managers are going to be looking at. So you want to pay attention to those, and then keep everything that you've written, the profile, the professional experience, the education, all within 2 pages.
Thanks for watching. Some great advice there. Hope you found it useful and informative. If you're looking for additional guidance on your career journey, click the buttons on the screen to see the next video in the series, or watch the full-length episode for more tips. Both videos are also listed in the description below.